Let's have a little bit of a debrief then of South Africa against the All Blacks the morning after, and it is still just about morning. It's been a very late, lazy morning. I'm about 3 coffees deep, and I've got, you know, that feeling you have the day after a big one, where you just want a nice warm cup of hot chocolate and to feel all cozy. That's what I've got going on here. But let's talk about the game. Your thoughts in the comments down below. I'm Tim, and this is Egg Chasers. And if you appreciate the content on the channel, if you love your rugby, and you wouldn't mind helping me spread the word, because it is just me, then please give the video a thumbs up, hit subscribe, because that all helps. Can you hear my voice is a little bit hoarse? I had a good day and a good night in Cape Town. Although I will just say I can't go as hard as, fair play the All Blacks, I left the venue thinking, right, I've had enough, just as Ardie Savia and TJ Perenara arrived. But awesome time. Having a great time in Cape Town. But let's talk about the match then. So I'm sensing a bit of negativity, actually, from both sets of fans to a degree. And I want to combat that a little bit. So with New Zealand first. So what's Scott Robertson's record so far as New Zealand head coach? 4 wins out of 7, which on its own sounds bad. But you cannot judge this team or Scott Robertson as a head coach based on 7 matches of international rugby, particularly when 2 of those games were away to the world champions. The defeat against Argentina, we've seen Argentina can beat anyone on their day, and they did, and they caught New Zealand a little bit flat, and they had one of those days, and that can happen, but yes, should be a disappointment. And they beat England twice, who are a good team, and they beat Fiji. So I just don't think things are as bad as people are saying. I was in the room when the press conference was happening, and Razor was getting some barbed questions from the media there, and I think he understandably defended certainly a lot of the players in his squad. He's not to be without criticism, and I'll come to that in a minute. But I just flip this and say I'm an England fan, and I don't know, what sort of standard do you want to set the bar at? Because I was an England fan, and when we came back from New Zealand with 2 defeats, we lost twice. Does that mean the world's falling in? No. We pushed New Zealand in their own backyard very, very close. And with another year of development, and with a few more players bedded in, and hopefully if we unearth a couple of props somewhere, then we could be a real force. And I'd say the same is true of New Zealand. They pushed South Africa very, very close, 2 consecutive weeks, away from home, with a team that has just lost 2 generational all-time greats at lock, is without probably, or certainly a year ago, was the best fly half in the world in Richie Mo'unga. You're going to have, there's going to be issues that come off the back of that, and they're facing a South Africa side, and I'll come on to them, that are strength, depth, as good as they've ever been. So I think that is the context. So you can either have your glass half empty or your glass half full. Mine is half full, and I look at the positives for both sides, because there is a bit of negativity towards South Africa as well. Loads of people coming away going, "What? Oh, it was a poor match. It was rubbish." They've just beaten New Zealand twice, whilst not being at their best, and whilst trying to go through a process of change themselves and play a little bit differently. And again, glass half empty, glass half full. I think that's cause for optimism and positivity, personally. I've had a lot of people in the comments since yesterday saying, right, you've got to rank the grounds now, because I've seen a game at Loftus Versfeld, Kings Park, Durban, Ellis Park, Johannesburg, and now Cape Town. A favourite, I think that's hard to call. Ellis Park for kind of just the bare bones of that stadium, and knowing the history that went on there, that moment in '95, for example, and the decibel level was just incredible. Kings Park for the party before and afterwards is unrivaled. That field full of people just having a party before and after is like nothing I've seen. A nightclub at one end of the ground, amazing. Loftus had a bit of a mix of Kings Park and Ellis Park, where it had the kind of edge and atmosphere of Ellis Park and the noise, but it also had a bit of a party vibe like Kings Park. So I really enjoyed Loftus. Cape Town, how good. I mean, the setting and the backdrop, the sea on one side, the mountains on the other, The sun was shining, the sky was blue. That helped. It's not today. It's raining at the minute. Just felt great. A happy, positive environment. I absolutely loved it. And that, someone described it to me this morning, a Springbok fan. They talked about the nation building that the country's been through and the team has been through. And I think that is what was showcased from Cape Town. So with the crowd and the way they were, I just thought it was a really, really great environment. I absolutely loved it. And Cape Town's a fun night out. Yeah. And if you compare it to England, obviously England just play at Twickenham. But, you know, other grounds, if you go to watch club games, the grounds vary and you can get, you know, a very different atmosphere at Gloucester to Bath, for example, and they're just down the road from each other. But it varies by a degree. Here, the atmosphere, the crowds, the whole match day experience varies massively game to game. And I'm sure it'll be exactly different and brilliant in another way at Nelspruit and for the Argentina game, or as it was for Bloemfontein when they played Portugal. And I love that about this. I've had 4 match day experiences in the last couple of months, and they've been completely different. And I think that's really, really special and speaks to kind of the unique history and culture of the different parts of South Africa. I'm looking forward to seeing how that differs next year, say in New Zealand. And hey, I mentioned this on my video following the game yesterday. Surely New Zealand have to put the record on the line at Eden Park, Auckland, don't they? All those years unbeaten, they've got to put it on the line against the world champions. That could be the biggest game of, and it pains me to say this, that could be, if they put it at Eden Park, that will be the biggest game of 2025. And it pains me to say that because there's a British and Irish Lions tour to Australia, but obviously I'll talk about Australia on another video. Not looking good, that, is it? As for the actual meat and substance of the match, there's a plan at play here with South Africa, isn't there? The negativity about how they're playing and all the errors, I get it, but it's Tony ball, isn't it? Tony Brown has come in and there's a journey that they're going on, playing with speed, counter-attacking, and I think I understand it. I'll use this description as well when I talk about the referee, Matt Carley, and his team in a minute. I understand it. I get it. Because Australia Rugby World Cup 2027, fast tracks, the personnel that South Africa have got available to them, the laws that World Rugby are changing, the direction of travel there is all pointing towards the fact that this attempt that South Africa are going through makes complete sense. They are committing to it 100%. And I think what we've seen the last couple of weeks, South Africa, or Rassie Erasmus, is willing to risk losing in order to try and achieve the ultimate aim. They haven't lost, and that should be a big positive, but they're willing to risk losing because they're making decisions that I think when it comes to the next World Cup, they will not counter-attack everything by default. But the only way they're going to get to a position where they can have confidence in playing different ways is if they do that now. And I think that's to be admired. Again, do you want your glass half empty or your glass half full? If I were a South African fan, I'd be thinking glass half full. We're doing things that we will not do come a World Cup time, and we're still winning. But as a result, you're going to have different gears that you can lock into when it actually comes to really mattering. And there were a lot of errors. There's no getting around that. The back row got bested at the breakdown by New Zealand. And again, I'd flip that round and say the positive. New Zealand were outstanding at the breakdown. As for New Zealand, well, there's one big positive for them. Other positives, I thought the whole front row were brilliant. Tamaiti Williams, Cody Taylor, he was my player of the match, as far as I'm concerned. And Tyrell Lomax is just a baller of a player. He was, last week and this week, he has been outstanding. Tupu Vai, how promising does he look? You know, losing Whitelock, Retallick. Tupu Vai looks like a player. Another 20 caps under his belt, and he's going to be a serious talent. Wallace Satiti came in for this game, and I mean, totally vindicated. Well, him and Cortez Ratama, two important changes in the team. I thought they were both good, and that's what Scott Robertson said in the post-match press conference. People were talking about the changes and stuff, and he looked at the journalist and said, "What did you think of Cortez's performance?" And the journalist said, "Yeah, he was good." He went, "Yeah, he was good, wasn't he? What did you think of Wallace Satiti's performance?" "Yeah, he was really good." "Yeah, he's really good." Shut down the question straight away. It was actually really good to watch. Criticism for Scott Robertson. I said there is some. He does not trust his 23-man squad. The use of his bench the last 2 weeks has been very poor. Always easy to say with hindsight, isn't it? And Scott Robertson has forgotten more about rugby than I'll ever know. But I think that's a valid criticism. And I think there's a lot of people saying that. Why are you leaving on your front row for 70 minutes in a game like that? You've got to have confidence in these guys that come off the bench. You have to. And to use that phrase I used for Rassie Erasmus, you have to be willing to risk losing in order to achieve your ultimate objective. And it just felt a little bit like Scott Robertson was all about now and that minute, and as a result, got too cautious and anxious to do anything that could affect the game positively or negatively. And that's a coach that's not leading with confidence, and that would be one of the takeaways for me. And 3 replacements weren't even used, which at this level, with that sort of intensity, that's unheard of. So I think that is an issue. There's a lot of people coming away saying DMAC at 10, not convinced. Will Jordan wasn't great at 15. Will Jordan's just come back from injury. DMAC, just remember, wouldn't be having this conversation if Richie Mwanga was available, because he's the standout 10. Arguably, could be argued the best 10 in the world. Other sort of negatives, I suppose. Ardie Savia, minimal impact in 2 games. Certainly from an attacking side. I thought defensively, Ardie Savia and Sam Cane and Satiti and Cody Taylor and others won loads of breakdown work in defence. TJ Perenara needs to zip it. And to that end, let me talk about the referee, because he was the only other Englishman in the stadium besides myself. Well, Sasha Feinbergen-Gomazulu is half English, and his dad was probably there, so there's another Englishman. Joking about Sasha, trying to take credit for him. Can't take any credit, can we? I just wish, I wish England's coaches had been on it maybe a few years ago and rolled out the red carpet. No, it was never going to happen. He's an absolute superstar. But the referee, Matt Carley, I thought he was excellent. Again, going back to the Tony Brown ball with South Africa, as I said, I'd use exactly the same phrase with the referee. Can you understand it? There were 4 yellow cards. Can you understand them? 100% yes. You may well disagree. You may think Villy LaRue was genuinely trying to intercept the ball. I think that's probably a fair comment. You could argue that was unlucky. I think it's probably one of those death or glory moments. You either intercept and score a try, or you get a yellow card and go off. That's just kind of the way it is. But I can understand people saying that should have been penalty only or nothing. But can you understand it? Yeah. You might disagree with Tyrell Lomax's yellow card. Can you understand it? Absolutely yes. And I really appreciated being able to hear the TMO and the referee in the stadium at the time. I'm not just being biased. I do think, and some people disagree, I do think English referees are the best in the world. And I think Matt Carley added to that. It's the same. Do you know what? And again, on any refereeing decision, I'll say this again and I'll finish with this. Oh, it's a weak-minded team that blames a referee for a result. Wayne Barnes had nothing to do. Some people disagreed with Sam Cane getting a yellow card in the World Cup final. I could even be sympathetic with that. Wayne Barnes didn't cost New Zealand a Rugby World Cup. They missed 2 kicks and they lost by a point. Same goes with the game yesterday. They lost by 6 points and they missed 9 points from the boot. The game was there to win and they didn't win it. But to flip it round and finish with another positive, New Zealand held the world champion Springboks at home to 18 points and couldn't win. And that's partly because New Zealand didn't have that cutting edge and because South Africa's defence is brilliant. And yeah, just overall, loved it. Loved it, loved it, loved it. Had a brilliant time in Cape Town. Sat in my generic Airbnb apartment, Sea Point. You can see the sea there. It's all a bit rough today, isn't it? And Good coffee joint round the corner though. Yeah, it's a local. I don't know if it's a local chain or a national chain, but Bootlegger, good coffee, And Mojo Market just up the road. It's good. It's a lekker place for for a bite in the evening. Good vibes, live music and stuff. So yeah, I'm having a good time. I think we're gonna head into, looking at the weather. Might not be as much fun, but Stellenbosch in a bit, which I'm sure that'll be lovely. But keep following the channel. Give the video a thumbs up. Hit subscribe. I'll see you on the next one.